Hello, this is Draft. Draft came from this question of how can we bring a higher level of efficiency and transparency to our governments. And where that brought me was to this concept of designing an integrated and robust legislative drafting, management, and implementation system. And this came from interviewing a whole host of clerks through the state, local, and federal level. So legislation runs in a flow or a story, for example. So it will go from, the legislator to the Senate clerk to the Rules Committee to the Topics Committee. And every government runs a little differently. So what this screen does is it allows the clerk to set up the unique system for their government. So this is a basic bill template, right? It's an empty template, Lorem Ipsum. And you can add in pieces of this legislation through sort of these modules or character styles, as I've called them. So in legislation, there's a consistent language and sort of blocks which are used to describe different kinds of things in legislation, different sets of rules and types. And you can also do that, by typing an @ symbol, a lot like we're used to tagging in today's, Facebook world. And here's a complete piece of legislation. You can see the timeline of what happened to this piece of legislation, who it was shared with, who wrote it. And believe it or not, the Healthcare Act is being challenged on the basis that they don't know, where the bill was at a certain point and who wrote a few words. And that is the basis of this lawsuit. So this would have huge implications, believe it or not, in our legal system. You can see the drafts. You can see who wrote what parts, depending on the drafts. There's a robust amendment submitting system and amending system. You can kind of see all the details of that. And there's great ways to provide feedback on details. This is all things that I heard would be great from clerks and aides. And you can see this of the list of that specific feedback. The thing about legislation, at least at the federal level, is there's written view and then they actually have an XML view. So they actually write legislation with these XML tags, you can see. A lot like, it's literally code. And that allows you to put it on the internet in a robust way. And so what I wanted to do was make this process accessible to those who might not understand XML, but will also give the robust editing techniques that XML can give you. You can choose your legislation type, which will give you different kinds of templates. You can choose how to share it. You can choose how to publish it. So you see this publishing sequence was set up by the clerk, like that we saw earlier. So this is the menu. So that brought us to the dashboard. This is where you can see, the legislation that's current, archived, and published in your system, and the calendar and internal rules for your committee or office. So you can see how you create new legislation. You can see how you publish legislation, right? So there's an action, publish deferred action for childhood arrivals to the Rules Committee. You can include reasons. And now we're in the Rules Committee, and we can send that to, the Rules Committee decides where legislation is sent. We'll send it to Immigration. So now we're in the Immigration Committee. They're going to schedule a hearing. So you see they've scheduled it for the 4th of December 18th. And then we can see what's passed. So there is now we're in the Immigration Committee, and they publish that to the Fiscal Committee. And then the Fiscal Committee publishes it to the California Senate. And then the California Senate publishes it to the California Assembly. And then California Assembly, and obviously this is way speeded up, but just to show how this could go and how difficult it is to get legislation passed, to Governor Brown. And then Governor Brown will sign and then send it to the Law Revision Council. And so this brings up the next part of the system, is the Law Revision Council are the ones who translate the bills and laws into actionable code in our U.S. code, our laws. So you can see we have the bill on our left, On the right, you can choose different ways in which you can assign right regulation based on items from this bill, and how you can straight up just publish that, GitHub style, to the US code. And so that allows us all to live on that same timeline. And you can also see how you'd send it to an immigration authority, to a regulatory body, who create the smaller rules around how this legislation will be taken out. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good day.